בשם השם נעשה ונצליח. שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים. We are back here on our Tuesday night shiur with the Ikveta de Meshicha based on the Kuntres by Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, Alav Shalom. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Orit bat Ilana, Michal bat Yael, Talia bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, Serach bat Batya, Batya bat Sarah, Stefan ben Katarina, Jonas ben Sheri Haley, David ben Esriya, Doris bat Jora, Rabbanit Levana, bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, and all of Am Yisrael Bezrat Hashem have refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, and also for a atzlacha rabba for Marsha bat Julie and her dear daughter Ayla bat Marsha, and Shaul ben Farzane. Also Yitro ben Avraham, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esriya, and also our new Jew that was added to the land, to the people, to Uzziah Ovadia ben Avraham. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yivarech otam b'kol mikol kol chaim arukim shlemim meleim Torah mitzvot gminut chasadim, and the Zod Hashem, the Kedusha of Chanukah will not only be with them for this Chag, but also for the rest of the year. So Baruch Hashem, as I said, another Jew was added to the people in the last 24 hours. One of our dear students, Baruch Hashem, just completed their conversion. One day you're Harold, and the next day you're Uzziah Ovadia. And the beautiful part is that Harold is no more in the world. All it is a distant memory that will become more and more distant over time, whereas Uzziah Ovadia is going to be a Zat Hashem, creating memories each and every single day. And such is the way of the converts, the righteous converts, the people that make the sacrifice to not only learn Torah, but make the life changes that are necessary in order to do what's necessary to become a Jew. B'ezrat Hashem, next week we have another couple that's going to the Beit Din, and then actually after that we have another family that's going to the Beit Din. So quite a bit is happening with Team B'ezrat Hashem. We have, Baruch Hashem, quite a few people, about 100 and almost 60 families that we're working with in the process of their conversion. Some are in the latter stages of their conversion, some are in the earlier stages, but needless to say, the only ones that survive, the only ones that actually succeed getting to where they need to be, are the ones that are willing to make all of the necessary changes, learn all of the necessary things. And I'd say that learning is usually the easy part for most people, because in order to be a Jew, you don't necessarily need to remember the whole Shas by heart, or the whole Chumash by heart. You don't need to remember every single thing in the world. You need to know some basics of how to be a Jew, and most of the learning you're going to do is going to be during your life after conversion. The biggest part is really the life changes, the necessary changes that a person needs to have, which is to live in a Jewish community, live a Jewish life. If you're a woman, become very modest, cover your hair if you're married. If you're a man, modest, obviously shomer brit, learns Torah every day. In addition to your regular job and all the other things that you're doing, which again, many people love the learning, but the life changes is really where the Satan gets more people. But anyone that's in the path right now and feels like they've been doing it for way too long and haven't succeeded, don't feel so bad for yourself, because many people have not succeeded, even if they were born Jewish. But that doesn't mean that you should stay that way. There's a lot of people that watch our shiurim each and every week. Baruch Hashem, we have new people that are newly observant or have been observant their whole life, but they start watching our shiurim and realize that they have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do in order to get to where they really need to be, not because I said it, but because our Chachamim, Zichronah v'Livracha, our sages, may their memory be blessed, taught us all of the different things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu demands of us, not just wants from us, but demands of us. Because the Torah, unlike what some people think today, is not a suggestion book. It's not advice. It's a guidance for the things that you're obligated to do. And one of the main things that people forget is that if you're not going to follow these instructions, if you're a Jew, then you're in very serious trouble, and there's really no way out of it. If you're a non-Jew, if you can't follow the Torah, it's better off that you stay a non-Jew and just be a righteous Noahide. But the part for some people that they really enjoy keeps them in, which many times is the holidays. You know, the Jewish holidays, Hanukkah, Purim, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, Pesach, all of these holidays, these amazing days, are times that many non-Jews want to celebrate. And the reality is that unless you're a Jew, you're not allowed to celebrate these holidays. For the most part, most of them are unique covenants or gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the nation of Israel. And by taking on these holidays, for example, a non-Jew that decides that he wants to observe Shabbat like a Jew, or he wants to observe Pesach like a Jew, not only would that non-Jew, that Noahide that is trying to be righteous, not only will he not be viewed as righteous, but in fact they'll be viewed as wicked thief, because these are gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the people of Israel. Now, if you want to celebrate the holidays, then you have to celebrate the entire Torah, meaning you have to convert to Judaism. Now, the key is that it's it's the battle that you're dealing with right now, whether it's to move to a Jewish community, or it's to eat kosher, or a marriage thing, any type of things, are not unique to you. They're not unique to you. You're not the only one that's dealing with problems. And I can tell you from my experience with many, many converts, Baruch HaShem, that I've dealt with, many that we've taken to the Bet Din itself, Baruch HaShem, and the list continues to grow, or others that we've simply just guided throughout the way, that not only is the battle not unique to you, but for the most part, I would tell you that I have converts that have made much bigger sacrifices than most people are willing to make. Whether it's getting a divorce from a very long marriage that that was good for a time being, until the ideology of the couple became so different they could no longer stay married. So to give up a marriage of 10, 20, 30 years for the sake of God is not an easy thing, that to say the least. And your difficulty of, let's say, monetary or otherwise, is usually not as difficult as such sacrifice that a person is willing to make. There's a very famous story about the Ger Tzedek Avraham ben Avraham at the time of the Gaon Mivilna. Avraham ben Avraham was a Ish Kodesh, a righteous convert to say the least, that became an enormous Talmid Chacham, but is known today because even though there are many converts throughout the years that became Talmidei Chachamim, became righteous, not all of them are remembered, but Avraham ben Avraham will forever be remembered. Why? For the sacrifice that he made for the Torah, to the point where he died for it. When the Goyim came and told him, listen, you have to abandon Judaism and go back to the idolatry of Christianity and so on, he rejected it, and they said, if you don't do it, we'll kill you in public. And he was willing to do it. And that's what ended up happening. Now, don't worry about Avraham ben Avraham. He's in Gan Eden with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But the point being here is that the sacrifice of a convert is nothing new. Is nothing new. Needless to say, this is also expected from Am Yisrael. This is also expected from Am Yisrael. That's why the Gemara says that the righteous converts are like a skin disease for Am Yisrael. Like a skin disease. So Chachamim say, why would converts be a skin disease for Am Yisrael? If they're wicked converts, then they become the Erev Rav. If they're wicked converts, then they become the Erev Rav. They become the problematic part of our people. And unfortunately, you can see some people today, they call themselves rabbis, but all day they desecrate the Torah. All day they go against the Chachamim, they insult the Chachamim, and they're on YouTube with tens of thousands of views of people that are just as wicked as them, or in essence, many times naive, or even more naive then you can imagine watching them thinking, oh yes, see, he's a convert, so therefore he should know. So when he's insulting the rabbis that are good people, not the bad ones, he must know better than everybody else. And there are unfortunately many wicked converts that have crossed our path. And the Gemara is 100% right when it says that they're a skin disease. Why skin disease? For anyone who doesn't know, a skin disease is it's not only painful, it is annoying. It is annoying if you had psoriasis, or you had any type of shingles. Baruch HaShem, we've merited to have both. All these types of skin diseases, I can tell you, they're not only painful, they are annoying because there's almost nothing you can do about them. There's almost nothing you can do about them because this is in essence the tikkun. This is a tikkun for different reasons that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings. And these wicked converts have been with us since the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. Since the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, these wicked Egyptians came and joined the people, not because they liked HaShem or they liked the Torah, but they saw we were the winning team. We beat the biggest civilization in the world. They wanted to join us. So the wicked converts are like a skin disease. But the Gemara also doesn't say wicked converts are a skin disease. The Gemara says converts are a skin disease. So why would the righteous converts be a skin disease for Am Yisrael? It says the righteous converts are a skin disease because they make the ones that are naturally born Jewish, feel bad about ourselves if we're not serving Hashem like them. Because when you see a righteous convert serve Hashem, it's mamash a sight to see. It's beautiful. The way they pray, the way they learn Torah, the way they love Hashem, the way they make sacrifice for Hashem without speaking a word, the way they're willing to dedicate their whole life to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's mamash a sight to see. Some of the most beautiful experiences I've had in my life, not just since I became religious, in my life, is serious just relationships that I've had and conversations that I've had with righteous converts. Unbelievable. So it's for any one of us that's still not up to par with our servitude of Hashem, that righteous convert is an example. It's an example for us to say, listen, if he can do it, if he can come from Jose and become Avraham, if he can come from Yoshke and become Avraham, if he can come from Buddha and become Avraham, he can become a tzaddik like this, surely I can. So this, Rabotai, is amazing. When you have more righteous convert added to the people, it's very, very beautiful. It's a huge Kiddush Hashem, but also it's a rebuke. It's a rebuke for all of us that are not doing enough. Now don't worry, that rebuke will be there even if they weren't added. The fact that there's more Kedusha in Am Yisrael is an addition to Am Yisrael, but in essence, each one of us has to work on ourselves to serve Hashem even better every single day. If we don't, there's a case against us. And a side note, for all of the people that can convert, they can convert, but they choose to delay it for different reasons. Like somebody told me recently, listen, Rabbi, I like Judaism. I learned everything according to the list that you gave me. I score myself a 10 for 10. I have all the knowledge and everything else. But I think I'm going to delay it a little bit. Oh, why are you going to delay it? Oh, I think maybe I'm going to make a little bit more money so I can buy a house in a Jewish community, and then instead of renting, so I don't want to waste money, so then I'm going to move. Just so you know, for those few words and that delay, you're going to get punished severely. Why? Because Aborei Barach, the creator of all creations, may his name be blessed, is going to look at you at the judgment of heaven after you live the Jewish life, assuming you actually succeed in converting. He's going to look at you and he's going to grab you and say, wait a minute, you knew that I was the King of Kings on this day. Yes, you can't lie over there. So you knew I was the King of Kings on this day. Yes, but you delayed to serve me at the highest level. For what? Because you wanted to get a better job? Because you wanted to have a bigger bank account? Because you just felt, maybe let me just delay. What a judgment they would get. And this is, I'm talking about the righteous ones. Needless to say, the wicked. So it's very important to note, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not our friend. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our Father in heaven. For the converts, he's their father and their mother. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is an emet judge. He's a judge of emet. So It's not a walk in the park. Each and every single one of us has to make sure when we show up to heaven, we don't leave anything unanswered. We have to make sure we do everything and anything possible to serve Hashem at the highest level. In essence, this is part of the topic of today that we read in the letter of the Rav Wasserman. And in essence, the title that I chose for now is To Be Charedi. Today, the different names, or if you want to call it sects, within Judaism, every day there's something new. I mean, it used to be either you're religious or you're not religious Jew. You're either an observant Jew or you're not an observant Jew. But over the last few hundred years, we've had many, many different sects perk out of Am Yisrael. Obviously, you've had different parts where some people were more connected to Chassidut over the last few hundred years. Some were more connected to Musar. You had the Litvish. Obviously, Ashkenazi and Sfaradi are, thousands of years old. Surely no one thinks that Moshe Rabbeinu was Ashkenazi. So obviously everything started with the Sephardis. So for all of those people that love to hate Sfaradim, the joke is on you because Moshe Rabbeinu was Sephardic and so was all of Am Yisrael. They weren't eating gefilte fish, but that does not mean that Rav Wasserman, Chafetz Chaim, and all of the tzaddikim from Ashkenaz are any less. Chas v'shalom. They're Kodesh Kodeshim. This is just the point that sometimes we have not only baseless hatred, but it's stupid hatred. You hate yourself. You hate your grandfather. It's ridiculous. Point being, we've had Ashkenazim, Sfaradim, the Temanim, the Ethiopians, the Yemenites is what Temanim is. But then we had, those different cultures. But that's not what I'm really referring to. What I'm referring to is that within Orthodoxy, we had breakaways. Breakaways that really mostly started over the last 200 to 300 years, about 250 years, when the Enlightenment movement, the Maskilim, in essence, wanted to change the Torah by doing something revolutionary in their eyes. Revolutionary. What is this revolutionary? These Maskilim, Yimach Shemam V'Zichram, these Maskilim caused us so much damage and still causes damage till this day, even if they call themselves Orthodox. But in those days, they also called themselves Orthodox. But what do these Maskilim do? It says, listen, there's three parts. There's three parts that Am Yisrael connects to. There's Elokei Israel, the God of Israel. There's Torah Israel, the Torah of Israel. And then there's the land of Israel. So let's forget the land of Israel. We're all living in Europe. We're living in Egypt. We're living in Iraq. We're living in all different places. So let's forget about the land. And let's forget, the Torah. We don't necessarily need to make such a big deal out of this Torah. Let's modernize it. Why? We have some sophisticated people in our generation. Let's not be so Charedi. Let's just focus on believing in God. Like some people say, listen, I'm more religious than you. Yeah, but you don't keep Shabbat. You don't keep kashrut. You're married to a goya. You're married to. How are you more religious? Because no. In my heart, Hashem, God knows how much I love Him. In my heart. People like that. They're religious in their heart. One heart attack, they're not religious anymore. The reality is, Rabotai, that was with the Maskilim. The Maskilim wanted to remove the Torah. They wanted to remove the importance of the land of Israel. And they said, no, we're just going to believe in God. What happened to them? Disaster. They transformed into the Reform movement, into the conservative movement. Both movements were one disaster after another, to the extent where their leaders are openly homosexual, in many cases completely not Jewish at all, according to our Jewish halacha. Intermarriage running rampant, which we'll go over later on today. Complete and utter disaster. And unfortunately, the numbers, people are reporting that the numbers in the Reform and the conservative movement have gone down. The participation of Jewish people with Reform and conservative have gone down precipitously over these last several years. Now people are saying, maybe the leaders are not interesting enough. Maybe people are trying to become more religious. It's neither this or that. It's not that more people are trying to become religious, and it's also not because the leaders are not interesting. If you give a bar mitzvah to a dog, some people will find it interesting on YouTube. It's not that. You know what it is? Is that statistically speaking, they are going extinct. What people believe happened to the dinosaurs is what's happening to the Reform and the conservative movement. Why? Because what ends up happening, you are a Jew, you marry a non-Jewish woman, your kids are not Jewish. Now you may say, no, but according to Reform and conservative, they're Jewish. Okay, you could consider whatever you want, but reality is that those kids are going to grow up, and most of them are not going to connect to this fake Judaism version that you've created. And what ends up happening is that within 1 or 2 generations, those kids are 100% goyim, both halachically, culturally, and everything in between. So they're simply going extinct. So these Maskilim, these enlightenments movement, these sophisticated professors, these PhDs that thought that they could trick God and trick the sages into a better version, more modern version of Judaism, didn't fare out so well by saying they're just going to comply with the Torah. Why? Because by going against believing in HaShem, by going against the Torah, that means that you're denying HaShem. By denying the importance of the land of Israel, you're denying HaShem. So the point being is, Rabotai, those Maskilim didn't fare out so well. But then came the Zionists. The Zionists, another group that Rav Wasserman mentions time and time again, all of these isms, the socialisms, the nationalism, the Zionism, all of these isms are one disaster after another. These Zionists had a slightly different plan. Different plan. What did they say? Listen, we don't need God. We don't need the Torah. We just need the land. We just need the land. You know, there's 3 parts. The Enlightenments, they said, we don't need the land and we don't need the Torah. We just need God. The Zionists said, okay, that plan didn't work for them. So what we're going to do, we're going to change it. No God and no Torah, chas v'shalom, but we're going to focus all of our attention on the land. And this is why Herzl Imach Shimo v'zichro wrote in his own journal that if the Jewish people are not going to support him in acquiring the land of Israel, which at the time was called Palestine, he's literally willing to kill every single one of them. And in essence, as we've reviewed over the last few months in different books that have been written, he, in essence, facilitated the hatred of Jewish people to the extent that some major Chachamim have said he is one of the core reasons of why Hitler, Imach Shimo v'zichro, hated Jews and murdered 6 million of them in cold blood. Yet today people are so ignorant. They're so ignorant about Zionism. They're so ignorant about the founders of Zionism, and even so ignorant about today's Zionism, which in itself broke up into 1.5 million different pieces. The religious Zionists, the lefty liberal Zionists, this Zionist, all types of nonsense. Point being is, they're all trying to start new religions. They claim it's not religious, but trust me when I tell you, everyone in the world is religious. There is no such thing as a non-religious person. You're a religious Jew, you're a religious Christian, you're a religious Catholic, you're a religious Buddhist, you're a religious atheist, you're a religious lefty liberal hater of religion, but that's a religion in itself. And so everyone has a religion. Everyone has a belief system that they hold dear to them, no different than how the greatest sages in history held on to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the point is that these Zionists wanted to remove God and His Torah from the equation and just focus on the land. And what ended up happening? Complete and utter disaster. Now you say, wait a minute, but didn't they succeed because they got the land? No, they didn't get the land. HaKadosh Baruch Hu simply gave it to us. He gave it to us a few thousand years ago. In essence, He gave it to us now, but under different conditions. But a lot of disasters happened during that time. Aside from the Holocaust, aside from all those tragedies that happened, also, the fact that thousands upon thousands of Yemenite and Moroccan kids were murdered in cold blood by these Zionists. Till this day, there are open cases in the Israeli court system trying to uncover the blood, trying to uncover all of the blood, all of the hands that were full of blood from these Zionists that sold these children for experiments, sold these children for different people to do what they want with them. Some in cases adopted them as children, and some did not do it for that kid. The point being is, these Zionists expressed evil against Hashem and thereby ended up being evil to men. So here we see, Rabotai Yekarim, a very unique lesson that Rav Wasserman has been repeating time and time again, that the reason why Am Yisrael is suffering so dearly over the last few thousand years is not because the Goyim, the other nations, are so bad. It's not because of that. Yes, of course, Esav soneit Yaakov and Ishmael doesn't hate him any less, but that's not the reason. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is simply turning on and off the button of hate from Esav and Ishmael. They don't always hate us. They don't always express that hate, at least. That's not the reason. The reason why Rav Wasserman says is because of the shepherds, the leaders we follow. And he calls all of these leaders prophets. Not prophets like the tzaddikim we had, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Yechizkel, Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. No, not like such holy prophets that talk to Hashem, but prophets because prophecy, the word prophet is Navi. And Navi means Niv Sfatayim, someone that speaks. Those prophets are in essence the people that speak to the people, the leaders of the people. Some of those prophets can be people like Herzl, Imach Shimo, or Ben Gurion, Shem Reshaim Yerkav, or all of the others in between them, and even today's leaders. These are in essence the false prophets of the days that misled the people. And Rav Wasserman repeated time and time again that the reason why Am Yisrael is suffering so dearly is because we listen to these false prophets rather than listening to the righteous prophets. And now he continues elaborating on this point. Where he says in the same section, the rules of the exile, in the section Lamed Aleph and 31. Now, if you have downloaded as a side note, if you've downloaded the Ikvita de Meshicha from our website, we discovered that this particular section is actually missing. You'll see Lamed Aleph, you'll see 31 in that letter on our website, but it's not the same Lamed Aleph. For whatever reason, the printers skipped this paragraph. Either way, we'll go over it and I'll translate it as we go along. מצב היהודים בשעה זו הוא הנורא ביותר שבתקופת גלותנו. The situation of the Jewish people at this hour is the most tragic, the most horrible that it has been since the exile began nearly 2,000 years ago. Now he's obviously talking about the time he lived, which is during the time of World War II. He himself was murdered, among other tzaddikim, by the Nazis, Yimach Shimam. But he's writing this several years before he got murdered, several years before the concentration camps started murdering millions by the week, practically. This is a time where he's saying, already, in his time, needless to say, our time, he's saying that the situation is as horrific as it's ever been in the last 2,000 years. Why? Is he referring to the Nazis taking over communities, turning them into ghettos? That's not what he's talking about. As we've already learned through this letter for the last almost 30 lectures, that's not what we're talking about. He's talking about the spiritual aspect of Am Yisrael that's leading to the physical suffering. הכוח שעמד ליהודים בכל הזמנים הוא ההתקשרות לתורה. The strength that held the Jews together throughout all of the times was their connection to the Torah. That's what held Am Yisrael together. How do we see this applied into today? You see today, Rabotai, many Jews are living simply a non-Jewish life. But it's not just that they're not religious and they don't observe Shabbat, whether they live in Russia or in Israel, America, the UK, Australia, or wherever you're going to find Jews in the four corners of the world. It's not just that they're not religious. They have achieved such a lowly level spiritually that they don't see any connection to the Torah and to the Jewish people. They have gotten to the point, some of them have gotten to the point where they've become what's called self-hating Jews. They actually hate Jewish people. I have some people that send me messages left and right about things that they disagree with what we've mentioned according to the Chachamim. Like this one menuval that called me today and chewed my ear off despite me hanging up on him twice for 9 minutes. All just to simply tell me how much he doesn't like me, how many times he can insult me in a matter of 1 minute. I think he was competing with himself. And the only reason why I even answered is because I was expecting a call from overseas and I thought that was it. So I fell for the trap twice. Point being is, all he would do, and I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. I wanted to see maybe I could reason with this Rasha, but no way. He was determined to insult me, to call me all types of names, and do all types of things. That's one level of Rasha. Now he considers himself religious for 40 years. He considers himself religious for 40 years. So when they cook him in Gehenom, they're going to say, Chazaku Baruch, Chazaku Baruch, Chazaku Baruch, in Gehenom, Chazaku Baruch, religious, Chazaku, hold on, your kippah burned. Let us give you another kippah. Let's give us another, your kippah burned again. Oh, give us another kippah. Such a person considers himself religious, but that's not, in essence, the self-hating Jews. Self-hating Jew is even worse. The self-hating Jew is a Jew that doesn't just hate the Torah. No, self-hating Jew hates the Jewish people. He doesn't like Judaism. He doesn't like anything to do with Judaism. He actually wants to be like the nations. He wants to be German. He wants to be American. He wants to be Italian. He wants to be anything but a Jew. You tell him, listen, why don't you come to a Shiur Torah? No, I don't have any connection to these old people with long beards. I don't have any connection to these Jewish people. He has no connection. This is a tragedy that we see growing, unfortunately, by the week. Although the access to the Torah and to information in general is more available today than any other time in history, unfortunately, today we also have a tragedy among our people where there are many Jewish people that have experienced some part of Judaism, or in essence the Jewish people, that has deterred them so much that they believe that those bad Jews, that they gave them a bad experience, in essence that's Judaism. Why? Because many times they had a bad experience with someone who looks religious. The guy looks religious, but yet he stole money from them. So they figure, so if these so-called religious Jews steal money, who wants to be religious? I hate religious Jews. And I've told you guys the story several times, but it's worth repeating, of someone that's very, very dear to me. Before he did TeShuva, he said, listen, one of the things that was most shocking to me in my life, that he says, is that I used to have a card club. Don't ask me about the legality of it. The point is, he had a card club. And people would come, gamble, play different games or whatever. And as you would have it, one day he saw a couple of religious guys come. Kippah, beard can sweep the floor, the whole thing. And they wanted to play cards. Now, when you're running a card club, you don't necessarily care so much who your customer is. He could be black, white, burgundy, Hasidish. It doesn't make a difference. All you care about is, as long as this guy's money is green. That's all that matters. So, he wants to play. It doesn't look so good, but that's not his business. He's not here to judge or jury, especially since he himself was not religious. So he sees this guy sitting over there in the card club, and he's playing with everybody, and as you would have it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made his opposition take all of his money. Now, instead of being a person that just walks away, what does he do? He opens his pocket, he takes out an envelope, opens up the envelope, and starts taking out donation checks. Donation checks that people gave him for some cause that he was preaching. Donation check, and say, okay, hey, cash this check for me, giving the house that checks that people donated for the sake of Torah, for the sake of helping poor people, for the sake of something good connected to the Torah. He gives them donation checks. The person I know says to me at that point, my eyes turned black. Just everything I could not believe my eyes what I was seeing. How could this be? This is Judaism. This is Judaism. And Ishtabach Shimo La'ad, Baruch HaShem, sometime later he was able to see our shiurim and so on and realize this is not Judaism. What we teach is Judaism. What's in the Torah is Judaism. So sometimes I tell you, just because someone is Jewish by birth or by looks or both doesn't necessarily mean they're always the best representation of Judaism. If you want a representation of Judaism, you have to look at the Torah. If you want to see it in human form, you have to look at our rabbis that are accepted Gdolim, Rav Kanievsky, Rav Ovadia, Rav Mazuz, the Rambam, the Ramban, all of the great sages. That's Judaism. Don't judge Judaism by just some schmo that pretends to be a religious Jew. You can't judge Judaism that way, just like you can't judge other people just by some bad example. You can't judge all cops for being evil just because a bunch of them like to beat up people for no reason. Surely there has to be somebody that's not a murderer over there. I'm assuming, hopefully. But I'm kidding. There has to be some decent people there. Surely there are some doctors that don't care just about money, that care about people. I'm assuming. I'm kidding. No, there has to be some decent doctors. The point is that just because there are bad people doesn't mean that everybody is bad. Doesn't mean everybody is bad. But unfortunately, the Yetzer Hara is going to do that to you. He's going to tell you, no, you see, that Jew is bad, all of the Jews are bad. And that's in essence what happened with Hitler, Yimach Shimo. Where did he get most of his information about Jewish people? He wasn't associated with Jewish people. With the exception of the Jewish doctor that saved his life when he was a baby, he wasn't involved with Jewish people's lives. Where did he read all of the information about Jewish people? In the anti-Semitic papers. How would the anti-Semitic papers know about Jewish people? Because those anti-Semitic papers had articles by Herzl and his friends against the Jewish people. Yes, those so-called Zionists that said they loved the Jews and they wanted to get a country, they wrote articles in the anti-Semitic papers talking about how the Jews are traitors and bad people, and therefore you should kick him out of the land, because his strategy was that if anti-Semitism increases, then the Jewish people will support him and they'll be able to get the land of Israel. Rasha Merusha ended up costing us 6 million lives. Of course, it was all the hand of HaShem, but the point is that the hand of HaShem used him and his wicked friends. Anyway, Rabotai Yekarim, the key is that sometimes you have a Jew that disconnects. He doesn't disconnect for no reason. He disconnects because he had a bad experience with other Jews that look religious. He went to a Jewish school. Like there was used to be a Jewish school where I grew up in Staten Island, and over there the principal, he hated Sephardic kids, hated them. Anyone that was Sephardic or poor, he hated them by default. So what he would do, he would constantly look for excuses to kick him out of the school. And he kicked out at least 2 people that are very dear to me. Both of them to this day are struggling, but Baruch Hashem, one of them started doing TeShuva about 6 months ago. The other one, up and down. But for most of their lives, almost 20-something years, 25 years after they got kicked out, went from keeping Shabbat, keeping everything, to keeping nothing. Why? This Rashad didn't like that one of them was Sephardic, the other one wasn't very rich, and in fact the opposite, decided to kick him out of the school for no reason. And guess what? One of them at least developed a hatred towards religious people. Why? He said, look, all the experience I have with religious people, between this former principal to other people that I had, they all were bad to me. Why should I like religion? Why should I like the Torah? I said, that's not the Torah. What they did is not the Torah. And it's a lot of work to rewire somebody's brain. So unfortunately, all of these self-hating Jews didn't just become self-hating Jews for no reason. Something happened to them, to their parents, to their friends, to somebody. Meaning that at some point, some form of Chillul Hashem, desecration of Hashem's name and His Torah, caused this fire to already begin burning in this world. And that's why, Rabotai Karim, the Gemara says that Chillul Hashem is a sin that is not repairable in this world. It's not repairable in this world in a natural way by simply suffering or giving tzedakah or saying I'm sorry. Chillul Hashem, desecration of Hashem's name, is only repairable either after a person dies, they have to go to Gehenna for a really, really long time, or while they're alive, they do Kiddush Hashem. They sanctify Hashem's name. Aside from doing TeShuva for everything else, they do Kiddush Hashem. What's Kiddush Hashem? There's many different ways to do Kiddush Hashem. The highest level, as we've learned in previous months, the highest level, as Rabbeinu Yonah mentions it, and also Chovot HaLevavot mentions it, and many other places, the highest level of Kiddush Hashem is to do Kiruv, to help Am Yisrael do TeShuva, either by donating money to a Kiruv organization, or speaking to people, or bringing people to a lecture, giving out CDs, flyers, getting people to do TeShuva, return to Hashem, do brachot, and so on and so forth. That's Kiddush Hashem. That's, in essence, sanctifying Hashem's name, making it even greater. That's the only thing that you can do to repair Chillul Hashem while you're alive. Otherwise, a person has to do it after he's died, and I don't really recommend it. The point is that these people that have become self-hating Jews became self-hating Jews because there was a reason. Something happened. Something happened. And it's the onus is on us. The onus is on us to try to fix that. How? By spreading more Torah, more light of Torah, more Kedusha into the world to show people, more and more religious people, more and more good religious people, whether they're religious by birth or they're religious by tshuva or religious as a result of conversion, doesn't really make much of a difference. More and more Kedusha as a result of the Torah, more emet from the Torah, and thereby showing them that this is the real version of Judaism. This means you have to be honest in your business, honest in your marriage, honest in your day-to-day, honest in shul, outside, out of shul, everywhere. You have to sanctify Hashem's name from the minute you're awake until you go to sleep every single day for the rest of your life. No exceptions. This obviously is not as hard as it seems. All you need to do is just be willing to serve Hashem. Now, some people may think it's hard because they have lack of connection to Hashem, lack of bitachon Hashem. But the point being here is that we have instructions from Rav Wasserman, one of the Gdolei Ador from the previous generation, telling us that we are in a tragedy. And if he's talking about his time being a tragedy, we are living in a bigger tragedy. The situation for Am Yisrael is the worst it's been in 2,000 years of exile, because the only thing that held strength for Am Yisrael is their connection to the Torah. Ze natan lahem kochot ruchanim. This gave them spiritual power. What do we need spiritual power for? What, are we going to split the ocean? What, are we going to resurrect the dead? Maybe, but that's not necessarily why we need spiritual powers. What are the spiritual powers? To withstand the pain of the exile, to withstand all of the difficulties of life. When we connect to the Torah, we have the strength to withstand the whole week. When a person sanctifies Shabbat, not only keep Shabbat by not driving, not only keep Shabbat by doing Kiddush, not only keep Shabbat by being happy and learning Torah, but keeping Shabbat in accordance with what Hashem says, not in accordance with what some Dennis Prager type of character says. What the HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, what the sages says. And here you see, when a person sanctifies Shabbat, the sages explain to us that she is given strength for the whole week. For the whole week. When a person does not sanctify Shabbat, and I don't even mean they don't keep Shabbat. Let's say, if they don't keep Shabbat, it's obvious. So needless to say. I'm talking about a person that just treats Shabbat like it's like, okay, so I can't drive. Okay, so I can't go play basketball. Okay, so I can't go on TV and I can't go on the internet. All right, whatever, I'll just sleep all day. You know what? I'll talk business with my friends all day. I'll play sheshbesh. I'll play all types of games. I don't really care about learning Torah. A person that does not sanctify Shabbat doesn't get that spiritual strength for the whole week. Hence the reason why you see so many people on Prozac and other antidepressants. They don't have the strength, the spiritual strength to withstand the problems of the week. The problems coming from the exile, the problems coming from life. They don't get it. They don't feel re-energized. They feel like, this Shabbat is like a burden. And that's what happens. When your Shabbat is a burden, your week is even worse. Your week is even worse. Now, of course, each and every one of us has our ups, has our downs. Sometimes Shabbat is Gan Eden. It's a piece of Olam Haba. Sometimes you have big tests and you fail. There's an altercation, disagreement. Forgot to turn on the plata for the food to be hot. So all weekend you're pretty much eating pieces of bread. All types of things happen. The key is, Rabotai, is to use the Torah, connect to the Torah deep enough that it alone will make your Shabbat holy. The rest of it, the Kiddush, the Challah, the Chillul, the gefilte fish, the Chaymi, the whatever you're eating, and whatever company you have or you don't, that's all extra. The Torah itself is supposed to be extraordinary enough, deep enough within your veins during that Shabbat that it's still beautiful. Now, of course, we all have our ups and downs, and we're all going to have some weeks that are good and some weeks not so good, but that's the key. That's the key. That's the battle. That's the battle every week. Prepare for that Shabbat the whole week, because once Shabbat comes, there's no questions. There's no question. You see somebody wants to argue? Not interested in arguing. You want to argue? Argue with yourself. I'm going to go learn some Torah. I'll come back when you're finished. Sometimes you have some people, they're in a bad mood. They woke up on the left side of the bed. They just want to argue for no reason. Argument, Rabotai, only happens if it's two sides. One wants to argue, the other one wants to be smart, walks away. Either walks away, if that's not acceptable, because let's say it's your spouse or it's somebody that's not going to accept you walking away, something like that, best thing to do, quiet. Yeah, but they're yelling at me. Let them yell at you. Yeah, but they're cursing me. Okay, let them curse you. What, you're so special, it's a big, so it's not, no one's allowed to. Okay, so they cursed you. Okay, so they yelled at you. I'm sure they're going to be sorry later on. Let them yell, let them scream, let them do whatever they want. When they see you're not responding, eventually they're going to stop. Why? The second you start responding, it's all over. Sometimes that's the only way you can deal with certain people. Other times you have to rationalize with them, but you have to continue your cool. The point being is you're going to have tests. It's not easy. Shabbat, holidays, all of these things, they're not easy. The Satan dafka comes to attack on Shabbat. He'll leave you alone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He'll leave you alone the whole week. He'll only show up at your door on Shabbat, on Yom Kippur, on Rosh Hashanah, on the holidays. Why? The value of a holy Shabbat is so high, he can't afford to leave you alone. He's willing to leave you alone the whole week just to bother you on Shabbat. Which means that you have to sanctify the Shabbat even more. Work on it even more. Study the whole week. Prepare the whole week. Okay, have a game plan. Just like somebody goes to war. They don't just go to war with a bunch of guns and knives and they hope for the best. No, you have a battle plan. Okay, at this time, I'm going to pray. At that time, I'll be home to Kiddush. At that time, I'm going to say a story. At that time, I'm going to sing a song. At that time, they go to sleep. At that time, I'm going to learn. At that time, I'm going to wake up. At that time, I'm going to eat. At that time, another story. At that time, sing a song. At that time, take a rest. Go for a walk. Say a few jokes. Whatever. Have a game plan, especially if your Shabbat's difficult. Now, this is easier said than done, but the point is you have to do something. And most important of all, pray for it. Pray for it. Pray for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have mercy on you and give you a good Shabbat. Pray for it. There's no shame in praying for it. I pray for it every week. You have to pray for it. Why? Satan shows up on Shabbat. He does. So now when we have the connection to Shabbat, when we have connection to the Torah, we have the kochot ruchanim, Rav Wasserman says. HaTorah הרתה להם את הדרך. The Torah showed them the way. נחמה אותם. ונתנה להם תקווה ורוממות נפש. It gave them comfort. It gave them hope. It elevated their souls. What does it mean, it elevated their souls? How do you elevate a soul? I mean, last time I checked, I don't see a regular average Jew walking around with a soul right next to him. Usually it's still in the same place it's always been, inside him. And if it's not inside of him, usually you have to say Kiddush. What does it mean you elevated the soul? What does that really mean? The Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin, in page 38, says that the Rishonim, the previous sages, were also called Sofrim. What's Sofrim? Sofrim is not always mean scribes. Sofrim they were called because they used to count the letters. They used to count the letters. As a side note, this means a lot of things. It could also mean that all of the different Torah codes that people are discovering today with computers and so on, the sages did all of it in their heart. Hence the reason why we have many codes and many things that are mentioned in the Gemara without the computers and so on. For example, where was Mordechai? The Gemara in Masechet Megillah says, where's Mordechai in the Torah? If everything's in the Torah, where is Mordechai in the Torah? It tells you exactly where's Mordechai in the Torah. And say, how do you see Mordechai in the Torah? You use Torah codes today with the computers. You see 12,193 skips. It spells Mordechai. How do they know it? They used to be Sofrim. They used to count the letters. But the pshat here is, the simple meaning is that the Rishonim, the early sages loved the Torah so much, they used to count the letters. Imagine somebody like has all types of precious jewels. What does he do? Oh, he has money. Today money is digital, but what does everybody do? The more money you have, the more times you look at the bank account. Oh, let me check. Let me look into my account, see what happens. What do you mean? What could have happened in the last 3 hours? Oh, I don't know. Maybe a check cleared. Okay, so a check cleared. A check this, check that. Like, is that... When you love money, you constantly look at, oh, let me check the account in the market. What could have happened in the last few hours? Oh, maybe the stock's up, stock's down. Okay, stock's up, stock's down. Can you do anything about it anyway? Why do you need to look at it 15 times a day? Constantly looking at your phone. Where's the stock market? Why? People love money. They look at the bank account. They look at their stock portfolio. They call their broker. They call their consultant. They call this one. They check that one. They talk about it. They talk shop. And so on. And so people love it. They talk about it. Same thing with somebody has a lot of jewels. There's somebody in the jewelry business and so on. What do? Almost every day they review their inventory. Oh, this is the package of the diamonds that are square, and these are circle, and this marquee, and this is this, and this is that, and that's how much gold, and that's how much copper, and that's how much this, that's how constantly count, constant inventory check. Even though not much has changed in the last 24 hours, constantly count. Why? They love it. They love their stuff. Same thing with anything else, real estate, so on and so forth. Guess what? The Chachamim, the early sages loved the Torah Kedusha so much, they would count the letters. Oh, look at that, an Aleph. Yeah, there's always been an Aleph. There was an Aleph there yesterday. It's a Bereshit. Bereshit doesn't start with A, starts with a Bet. Yeah, but you see, the word Reshit has an Aleph. Okay, but it was there yesterday also. Yeah, but I noticed that even more. There's a resh. Look at that, the resh. Yeah, but the resh, resh, reshit. It always, bereshit always had the resh. Yeah, but today I see there's a resh. And they count the letters and how many letters between this one and that one and this one and now. And constantly showed their love and affection for the Torah. Now there are some things that when it comes to the Torah are good numbers to know. They're good numbers to know. That the sages discovered due to their love of the Torah, but computers. So, some numbers to know. The shortest parasha, shortest Torah portion in the Torah is Parashat Vayelech. Has 30 verses alone. The longest verse in the Tanakh is section 119 in Tehillim, in Psalms. Has 176 verses. From all 5 books of Moses, the longest one is Bereshit, Genesis, which has 1,534 verses, 20,512 words, and 78,064 letters. From the ending letters in the Hebrew alphabet, there is a handful of letters that change if they're used as an ending letter. The letter Mem, the letter Mem, appears in the Torah the most amount of times, 10,624 times. Whereas the Ot, Fe Sofit, is the least, with 830 times. That's the reason why the Gaon Vilna says that one should use the word, the letter Fe Sofit as least as possible, because it's in essence, anytime it appears in a Torah, it's not good news. The parasha, Torah portion that has the most amount of mitzvot is Parashat Ki Tetzeh, 74 mitzvot, 27 positive, 47 negative. The longest word in the Torah, Mesharotecha, has 11 letters. Longest parasha, Parashat Naso, 176 psukim. Masechet in the Talmud Bavli, longest one is Masechet Bava Batra, 176 pages, Dapim, which is A and B. From the 5 books of Moses, Sefer Vayikra, Leviticus, is the shortest one. The longest one is Bereshit, the shortest one is Vayikra, with 859 verses, 1,950 words, and 44,790 letters. The letter that appears the most often in the Torah is the letter Yud, the small letter Yud, 31,531 times. The letter that appears the least amount of times in the Torah is the letter Tet, only 1,804 times. And the book in the Torah that has the most amount of mitzvot out of the 5 books of Moses is Leviticus, 247 mitzvot. So the same book that's actually the shortest in the Torah also has the most amount of mitzvot. 247 mitzvot, 95 positive, 152 negative. So here there is some math. Also, as far as the amount of letters in the Torah, 305,804 letters are in the Torah. Now, interestingly, one of the previous Gdolim, Rav Saadia Gaon, Alav Shalom, once said there was never a time in his life that someone came to him, asked him a question, and he didn't give him an answer. Except one time. His whole life, someone would ask a question, on the spot he'd give him an answer. Except one time. Some sewer, guy that makes clothes or whatever, decided to ask a question just like one of those questions where there's really no nafkamina, there's really no point of it, but you just want to show somebody that, you don't really know that much. if you don't know this, that means that you don't know that much. And if you don't know that much, that means that everything else that you know maybe is not, those types of people. We have many names for them. Anyway, one guy like this came to Rav Sadia Gaon and said, how many letters are in the Torah? And Rav Sadia Gaon didn't know the answer. He didn't know the answer. But he said to him, how many stitches did you sew today? Do you know that? Now this wasn't the answer. Obviously, he was just trying to buy some more time because he was thinking in his head, okay, this verse has this many, this verse had this many. He was able to count in his head the verses and how many letters, but it takes time to do the math because this question doesn't have any real substance, halachic substance of whether this many or that many, so there was no real point for him to really know this answer off the top of his head. It's not like today where you need to know specific letters to give Torah proofs and so on and so forth. Rav Sadia Gaon had no need for this specific information, and therefore he never learned it. But he was calculating in his head while the guy was thinking about the question, how many stitches did he sew that day? But also to show him that while you're trying to discredit me, in reality you're a hypocrite. Anyway, Rav Sadia Gaon could not figure it out. He got into all types of complications, Yetzirah, interfering, so on and so forth. He did what was called Sheilat Chalom. He prayed before he went to sleep, and for HaShem to give him the answer in his dream. And he got the answer in his dream, exactly the number that we have today. The point being is that the previous sages, Rav Sadia Gaon was Kodesh Kodashim. But even from Rav Sadia Gaon, the difference between him and the sages, the Tanaim, the Zugot, and the ones before, it was a world apart, if you will. Why a world apart? Because the Gemara itself says, those Rishonim, those early sages, those Zugot, Shmaya, Talion, these were people that were called Sofrim because they loved the Torah so dearly. It's not only they would just learn it, they would count the letters like precious diamonds. Now, Rav Wasserman is telling us that when a person makes sacrifices for the Torah, he falls in love with it. He falls in love with it. He's willing to make all sacrifices in the world for it. When a person doesn't make sacrifices to Torah, unfortunately, many times, either he's nonchalant about it, doesn't think of it good or bad, can respect it, but is not going to really ever understand why we continue reading the same parashot every year, we continue reading the same Gemarot every year, we continue reading everything over and over again every year. Like somebody asked Rabbi Ephraim in a shiur today, don't you ever get bored reading the Chumash every year? That question comes from ignorance of the value of Torah and how many secrets, endless amount of secrets and lessons you can learn from the Torah, even if you read it 1,000,000 times. But the point being is that a person never sacrifices their life for the Torah. In the best case scenario, they just wouldn't appreciate it. In the worst case scenario, they'll do exactly what the Gemara in Masechet Pesachim says, that the Amei Aratzot hated Talmidei Chachamim. They hated the Torah. They hated them. And their wives hated them even more. How much did they hate them? The Gemara says the wives of these Amei Aratzot, these ignoramuses, hated the Torah so much, hated the sages so much, they even hated them more than Esav hates Yaakov. That's how much they hate them. The ignoramuses can even get to a point of being worse than Amalek. Why? Their neshama starts rejecting everything connected to the Torah because it is so tight with the Satan himself, with the Yetzirah, with their desires and so on and so forth. So this romemut nefesh, this elevation of the soul, is what kept us going, Rav Wasserman says. Yodim yadu, shem enam bodedim. The Jews knew throughout the generations that they're not alone. Sheishno shomer amo Yisrael, as it says in the verse in Psalms 121, verse 4. Ine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael. Hashem is not a sleeping. He's always the guardian of Am Yisrael. Hashem doesn't sleep. He doesn't rest. Hashem doesn't rest or sleep, as the verse says. He is the guardian of Yisrael. How often does he guard Am Yisrael? 24 hours a day. So Am Yisrael, when we were connected to the Torah deeply, we knew that no matter what was going on in the world, we have something to rely on. We have HaKadosh Baruch Hu to rely on. He's here. Yeah, but it's dark over there. There's anti-Semitism over there. There's hatred over there. Don't worry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there too. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting us from this too. This is actually one of the interesting things that we learn in Chanukah. We say Hallel every day, right? Now in Hallel, it says that the time is going to come, Mashiach is going to come, and then the Goyim, the nations in the world, the anti-Semites, are going to praise Hashem. Why would the Goyim praise Hashem? Yeah, the Goyim are going to praise. Why are they going to praise Hashem? Why all of a sudden they're all going to do tshuva? No. They're going to praise Hashem at how much He protected Am Yisrael. Shouldn't it be that the Jews praise Hashem for how much He protected Am Yisrael? No, Hallel says the opposite, which is a verse from Tehillim. No. Of course the Jews will praise Hashem of how much He protected them. But here it's specifically mentioned in the Hallel that we read during the holidays, Rosh Chodesh, and so on and so forth. It says that the Goyim will actually praise Hashem for how much He protected Am Yisrael. Why? Because only Hashem knows how many times the nations tried to destroy Am Yisrael, and Hashem foiled the plans before they got even started. Only Hashem knows how many tunnels they built underground in order to attack the Jewish community, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before they got to attack a single Jew, HaKadosh Baruch Hu just simply made the tunnel collapse on them, buried them alive, and no one even knew it actually happened. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows how many times they tried to poison our water. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows how many times they wanted to plant a bomb. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows how many times they tried to rape somebody, kill someone, and so on and so forth. There's a very famous story that happened in Eretz Yisrael not too long ago, where a Jewish woman was walking around at night in Eretz Yisrael, and she hears there's footsteps behind her, and she realizes some stranger, and it's not a comfortable thing, especially it's a night, empty road, and she starts hearing that the footsteps are getting faster and closer to her, so she starts going faster and closer. She's and it's not appropriate for a woman to run in the streets. Rabbi again says that one time someone asked him, Kvod Rav, if I'm late for the bus, some woman asked him, Kvod Rav, if I'm late for the bus, can I run, get the bus? He says, it's better for you to die than to go run after the bus in the street as a Jewish woman. The crowd was shocked. What? Better for her to die than to run after a bus if she's late for the bus? Rabbi again says, yes. Why? Says it's not modest for a Jewish woman, for a Bat Israel, to run in the streets. For you to run is immodest. Why? Because the way your body is moving. It's no different than dancing in the streets. It's better for you to die than to actually show such immodesty in the streets. Such a Bat Israel, a holy Bat Israel, to be so immodest in the streets, to start running. It's better for you to die, he says. The crowd understood. Today in a generation, they'll probably rip you apart if you say it in a lecture. Let's see what they do with this clip. Anyway, this woman, snua, kisur rosh, snua and everything, but it's night, road's empty, and she's hearing footsteps, and the footsteps are getting faster. So she can't run, she knows she can't run, but what is she going to do? So she starts walking a little faster. Suddenly, she hears that the footsteps are slowing down, and she continues. She turns around the corner, and eventually, she loses track of where this person is, and she gets to where she needs to be. Shortly later, she gets knocks on our door. Yes, police, we need to ask you some questions. We need to come to the station. Okay, what did I do? No, there was a crime that happened, and I want to ask you a question. Okay, comes to the police station, says, do you know this face? Sees some Arab. It's over there. Yeah, it looks familiar. I saw him earlier tonight. Oh yeah, what did you see him? Oh, you think he was behind me? I saw a face, kind of looks like his. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he says he saw you and he described you and that's what we know and so on and so forth. He said you went in some house. Okay. All right. Well, where are the two guys that you were with? He couldn't figure that out. She says, well, excuse me. Well, he went and made a crime, but he said that really he had a different plan. When we started questioning him, we had a different plan. She said, what was the plan? He actually was following this woman. He was following this woman for a while. He got her to go to a road that was really dark, and he was about to attack, and he said suddenly two big guys showed up, and that's it. He knew that game's over. So he said he knew exactly where you went, but we looked in your house. Where are the big guys? She says to the police, I have no idea what you're talking about. There is no big guys. There is no big guys. HaKadosh Baruch Hu simply sends Bat Israel two big guys. Michael, Gabriel, they show up whenever they want. A couple of angels showed up when necessary. This, Rabotai, is something that a Jew depends on. Not just depends on. Throughout all of our years in the exile, we depend on these miracles. We depend on these amazing protection that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us in front of people's eyes, out of their eyes, all of these different things. That's what we depend on. Am Yisrael knew, as David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Am Yisrael knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't rest, He doesn't sleep, He's the guardian of Israel. Our gluedness to the Torah gave us comfort. Why? We knew that no matter what was going on, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with us. בדורות האחרונים קמו אצלנו משכילים אשר ניתקו את היהודים מהתורה ולהפך נשארו היהודים בודדים ללא מורא דרך. He says in previous generations, in the recent generations, enlighteners came up and disconnected the Jewish people from the Torah, as we said earlier. And due to that, the Jewish people started feeling alone, without direction, without knowing where to go. ללא נחמה ותקווה, with no comfort, with no hope. As the Gemara says, Torah was a famous heretic, constantly would debate with Rabbi Akiva. And Torah says to Rabbi Akiva, there's one little sheep surrounded by 70 wolves. How is it going to survive? In essence, this is a parable. Nation of Israel, surrounded by 70 nations that want to eat it up and to make it into a steak. Just look at, even literally today, you have a little country of Israel, surrounded by 40 somewhat Arab countries, most of which hate us and would love for us to disappear from the world. Even the ones that just recently signed a peace treaty with us. They all hate us. It's in their genes to hate us. And it's not just them. There's plenty of other countries that hate us just as much. There's some people right now that I know in the Netherlands where they're saying that anti-Semitism is now so apparent, so open, it's even on television, on the internet, in different shows on TV, constantly openly anti-Semitic. Germany no different, Netherlands, in Italy, in America, all over the world. There's wolves trying to kill us. Rabbi Akiva says to Torah, because that sheep has a reliable and very good shepherd. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, when Am Yisrael has the Torah, we have everything. We have a connection to our shepherd. When Am Yisrael was removed from a life of Torah by these enlighteners, by these reformers, by these Zionists, and everyone that was like them before and after, it caused us to not only not have that comfort that we had in previous generation throughout the different difficulties, but even worse, we felt alone. Now, many times, people ask me, especially the newly religious or the people that are only religious because their parents are forcing them to be religious. So they don't really want to be religious, they don't even know why they're religious. And they ask me, and they, in essence, insinuate constantly that being religious is a burden. They feel like they would have a better life if they were secular. Why? Because in their mind, if they were secular, they could just simply do whatever they want. Now, think about this for a moment. Would your life be better without Shabbat? Would your life be better if you ate pig every single morning for breakfast, like the nations? Bacon, egg, and cheese. Some of my former teammates on the football team in high school, that's what they would eat every day. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Would your life be better if you ate bacon, egg, and cheese every day? Would your life be better if you were just simply able to have a new wife every day, like many people do? Every day they go to some nightclub or some this or some that, and they have a new wife for the night. Would your life be better? Now, initially, the Yetzer Hara is saying, yeah, what a fun I would have. I go to the beach, I go to the clubs, I go doom, doom, doom with all the music. Most people, even people that consider themselves religious, will say, yeah, my life will be much better. I would have this freedom from this burden. Hence the reason why in Parashat Ki Tavo, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that part of the reason why he punished us is because of the sin. And part of the sin he punished us is because we didn't serve him with happiness. Meaning even if we served them as if the Torah was a burden, we deserve a punishment for it. A heavy punishment. What kind of punishment? The worst kind. Hashem Yishmael. Just go fast forward. Parashat Ki Tavo in the book of Deuteronomy. Or Parashat Bechukotai. What horrible punishments HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings us when we serve him as if the Torah is a burden. But the reality is, inside you feel like that your life would be better if you were not religious. What does that mean? How can you feel that your life would be better if you were not religious? It only means you don't know what the Torah is yet. It only means you have not glued yourself to the Torah. It only means you do not have any real comprehension of what you have. Why? You're too busy looking at the grass on the other side of the street. You're too busy looking at the sins of others and looking at how they're having fun making sins. You're not looking at the consequences. You're not looking at, oh, look, this guy's dating every girl, and I'm married so young with this girl. Oh, he gets to check this and check that. Yeah, he also gets to check his blood every few months because he has AIDS. So he gets to check that too. And he also, before he got AIDS, he had to check himself a few other ways for other STDs. And aside from that, he had to check how many girls got pregnant despite the fact that he didn't want them to. And he got to check those too. But all you see is the fact that he gets to check out all those girls. And you get to see, oh, look at that. He's got a brand new car and he's got a brand new house and I'm living in this little average home because, look, he gets to live a life. He's single and I'm married. It's a burden. Opposite. He's crying every single day. He's crying every single day being miserable because he has no happiness whatsoever because he is alone. That's why he keeps going to different girls. That's why he goes and keeps buying new stuff. That's why he's constantly consuming as much materialism as possible because there's a black hole inside his heart and he's trying to satiate it, only to realize it's not satiatable. It's not something you can fix with physicality, with materialism. But he wasn't taught to us. He doesn't even know how to fix it. So he gets another girl, and another car, or another house, and another stock, and another this, and another that, until he commits suicide. Or he simply loses all of his money. Or he loses his mind. Needless to say, he's depressed. Now, you don't have to listen to me, even though I lived both lives and can tell you more information about both sides than anybody else can, most likely. But aside from that, you can look at research. There was a research done in Eretz Yisrael some years ago on the life of religious people versus life of non-religious people. Now, of course, not all religious people are poor. Some are very rich. And of course, not all secular people are rich. Many of them are very poor. So you can't say, oh, this one's richer than the other, because it's simply not true. At the same token, you can't necessarily measure happiness, because it's not like you could just measure happiness by the size of a smile of people. So they simply checked problems. How many of them had major problems, diseases, all types of major crises in their life? They said, statistically speaking, there is no comparison. The life of a secular person is drastically much more miserable than the worst of the religious people. Religious people are having a much better life, much healthier life, much more productive life, much more longevity, much more happy in every aspect. Even the ones that are not rich and so on, just average person struggling, still has a million times better life than your average playboy that has a new girlfriend every week. Why? They have a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're connected to the Good Shepherd. When a person lives a secular life, it's an illusion. It's an illusion that he can do whatever he wants. And you, as a Torah observant Jew, are restricted. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it's the opposite. It's the opposite. You are not restricted. You are connected. He is restricted. You are connected to the Good Shepherd, the one that only wants to give you good and gives you good. He is restricted. By what? By his own addiction to his desires. By the addiction to satiate the black hole in his soul, because he has to do something because he feels miserable. He doesn't know why, but he wants to kill himself today. He doesn't know why, but there's no money that's enough in the world. He doesn't know why, but he can't find a girl. Even though he has a new girl every week, he can't find a girl. No one's good enough for him. No one's good enough for her. She can't be happy, even though she has a whole collection of bags that you could literally feed a civilization with the money that it costs. She can't find happiness, even though she has more shoes than a shoe store. I have to buy something new. They're constantly trying to feed their soul with materialism. They're addicted to that. They're addicted to that desire. They're constantly trying to get attention from the public. She needs people to tell her she looks good. She needs people to tell her that she is good. She needs people to do this, and that. She needs it. Why? She has nothing else. There's no connection to the shepherd. There's no connection to Borei Bach. There's no happiness. So she figures, so maybe if I wear less clothes, more people will look at me and whistle at me just like they whistle at the dogs. So maybe that's going to make me happiness. So she walks around, no arms, no legs. Everybody whistles, everybody's this. She goes home and she cries herself to sleep. Why? Why can't I find somebody to love me? What happened? Didn't you have Jose and all of his friends whistle at you from the construction company? Yeah, but they don't love me. They just love my body. Hold on a second. Wasn't that the plan when you walked around with no arms and no legs? Yeah, but I thought I would do something different. That's the reality. When a girl is connected to the shepherd, when a boy is connected to the shepherd, they're connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they're happy just to exist. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for not giving me problems that other people have. As Rav Avigdor Miller, Alav Shalom, says, what is Mesirut Nefesh? What is self-sacrifice? What is self-sacrifice? Because the reality, self-sacrifice is something that's viewed as extraordinary by everybody in the world, not just by the Jewish people. Hitler, Imach Shimo, he wanted to make sure to eliminate the positive perception of Jewish people by everybody. How did he do it? First and foremost, when he got into power, he removed all the Jewish people that were enlisted as soldiers and commanders and any association whatsoever to the German army. Even though they were all veterans that fought for Germany in World War I, many of them were injured, many of them had stars and so on. He said, you're not allowed to be in the army. Why? We're willing to die for Germany. We love Germany, they said. No. We don't want any Jews in a German army. Why? He wanted to make sure no one views the Jewish people in a positive way. He doesn't want anyone to have the Jews viewed as someone that was willing to sacrifice themselves for Germany. Why? Because sacrifice is a big deal according to everybody's standard. So Rabbi Victor Miller says, what's a real sacrifice that a Jew can do? What's a real sacrifice? He says, Ahavat Hashem, love Hashem. Now, love Hashem is a big thing. Everybody thinks they love Hashem. Well, Rabbi Victor Miller says, listen, let me tell you how to love Hashem. Let me tell you. There's a mitzvah, says, Ve'avta et Hashem Elokecha, b'kol levavecha, b'kol nafshecha, b'kol me'odecha. You love HaKadosh Baruch Hu with all your body, with all of your soul, with all of your money. Now, to accomplish all of it, we're actually obligated to do. But let's just start small. Start your day by loving Hashem. Why? Say, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rabbi Victor Miller says. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for not giving me an eye surgery today. What? Why eye surgery? You know how many people have to have eye surgery, he says? You know how many people have to suffer with eye surgery? They have to block their eyes for a few weeks. I have actually a dear friend, Meir Azulai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would give him Chaim Arukim. He's a chazan for over 40 years. I actually have him on my channel for anyone that wants to hear him speak. Meir Azulai is a fantastic human being. One day, he used to work out. He used to be a bodybuilder when he was younger, but he's a religious Jew. Anyway, one day, he's working out, and all of a sudden, he feels like a little pinch in his eye. All of a sudden, when he gets in the car, everything's blurry. Not really sure what's going on. Figured, maybe I'll go away the next day. Next day, gets even worse. Next day, gets even worse. Can't even see from his eye. Now, the look of it, there's no blood. There's no nothing. He saw me. He said, I can't see from my eye. I said, I don't know. It's a few days already. He said, no, it's already a few weeks. Can't see nothing. Got to go to the doctor. Goes to the doctor. HaShem Yishmor v'yatzil. Looks perfect. Looks normal. You can't tell. Doctor looks. He says, I'm sorry. You ripped your eye apart. So, excuse me? You ripped your eye apart. You have to have urgent surgery. You should have come earlier. We're not even sure we could save your eye. He did a surgery. We had to actually raise money to help him come up with some money, Baruch Hashem. Had surgery. Thought everything's going to be all good. Covered eye. Horrible. So on. Comes back. After the surgery. Can't see a single thing. Doctor says, no, it's going to take time to heal this, that, the other thing. Okay, how much time? A few months. Oh, okay, a few months. A few months pass, a few months more. A few months pass, a few months more, nothing changes. Goes back to the doctor. Doctor says, listen, it looks okay, but I don't know what's going on. He goes to the second doctor. Second doctor says, this is horrible. I don't know what the other guy was doing. Maybe he was a shoemaker, but you'll have to have another surgery. He has another surgery. We come up with more money. Another surgery. Still can't see. To date, he's probably had a dozen surgeries, and he still barely can see. He probably spent $250,000 on surgeries. On what? Something that just happened. Nothing hit his eye, nothing did nothing. He's a perfectly healthy guy, Baruch Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to give him some tikkunim. Rabbi Victor Miller says, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for not giving me an eye surgery. Why? Because eye surgeries hurt. Eye surgeries are difficult. That's loving Hashem. That's loving Hashem. But if that's not enough, Rabbi Victor Miller says, if that's not enough, you go on through your day, what are you going to do? You're going to walk somewhere, right? At that moment, you should be in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Love with him. Just because I'm walking? Yeah. Why? Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for not breaking my legs. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you. Breaking my legs? Why would he break my legs? Why would my legs have to be broken? Rabbi Victor Miller says, do you know how many people break their legs every single day and that didn't happen to you? I have another story for you guys. A few years ago, more than a few years ago, maybe something like almost, let's say, 15 years ago, a little less, 14 years ago, something like that. I had a guy that I knew used to work for me. He used to get high, used to go crazy once in a blue moon and do stupid things. One day, He gets high, and lo and behold, somebody knocks on the door. Maybe he was making noise, maybe not really sure exactly what happened. It wasn't there. But what I do know is that when someone was knocking on the door when he was high, he felt like, oh, it must be the police. They're here to kill me. They're here. Everything got in his head. What did he do? Opened the window, jumped out. Jumped out from the 7th floor. The only thing that he was fortunate enough is that there was a balcony on the 5th floor. So he dropped 2 floors. You think, oh, what's the big deal of dropping 2 floors? A lot. Why? You drop 2 floors, you land on your legs, pah! His shin was literally crumbled to nothing. When I went to visit him in the hospital, first of all, he looked like death. Second of all, they showed me an x-ray of his leg. He had more metal in his leg than a tank has. They had to replace the whole thing. And he suffered for years for something that took 2 minutes. People break bones all the time. Arav Vigdor Melech says, you want to love Hashem, you don't have to go so far. Thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu that today you have legs and Baruch Hashem, they didn't break. They didn't break. This, Rabotai, is small little expressions of loving Hashem. Small little expressions. Because what do we usually do? We usually look to love Hashem for good things that He does for us, such as He gave you money, He gave you a job, He gave you a new wife, a new husband, a new child. He gave you something. And what ends up happening is that we forget that the gift of no suffering is greater than any gift you can possibly get. When a person suffers, he's willing to give everything he has. He's willing to give his house. He's willing to give his car. He's willing to give everything he has just to stop suffering. Trust me, I know it from experience. When a person is suffering, he's willing to give everything. Yet the rest of us walk around complaining to Hashem, oh, how come you didn't give me a job? Oh, how come you didn't give me more money? Oh, how come I'm still single? Oh, how come this and how come that? How come you don't say, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me legs that are not broken. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me ears that still work and the eardrum didn't pop out for no reason. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me teeth that are still there. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me eyes that I can actually see. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me a voice that people can hear. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for allowing this heart to pump just by itself without being connected to electricity. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for making sure that all of the veins that you can't even see with the naked eye in my brain continue to function, and there's no clot of blood for a little second. Why? Because had there been a clot of blood, just a little bit of blood, just decide, you know what? I'm not going to work today. I'm going to stay over here. Guess what? That brain stops functioning. That person most likely is going to die. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for telling all that blood to continue going. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that even when there's an infection, sometimes I don't even know about it. Why? Because the white blood cells that you already put in my body already took care of that problem for me. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me fingers that actually work, that I could do work with since the time of Noah. Why? Because the previous generation didn't have fingers. They had this, what they had. They had hands like ducks. Made it much more difficult. I wouldn't be able to type on Facebook how much I love Rabbi Reuven. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for allowing me to have a brain that functions and can hear the emet. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for allowing me to live and breathe, because I remember that one time I was underwater when my friend drowned me like a joke. I felt like I was going to die. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me all of that breath that I have for free, without charging me even a toll. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for allowing me to reproduce, because there are so many people dying to have kids, but they can't. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for allowing all of the good things that you allow me to eat to literally go through my system, taste delicious, and anything that's not good for me exits my body by itself. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for allowing me to have special little hairs called the eyebrows, protect my eyes from having water, even coming from my own sweat, go into my eyes and disturb my vision. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for having these little hairs in my nose, protect me from all types of different things that I don't want in there. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for allowing me to have so many amazing things inside my body that I don't even know they exist. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for allowing me to have a soul that can actually experience pleasure. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me a Torah that gives me the instructions for everything I just learned. You see, Rabotai Karim, all of these things are free pleasures. Free pleasures. When you count all of the free pleasures, and what I mentioned is not 1% of 1% of 1% of the free pleasures that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives each and every single one of us every single day. When you calculate just the free pleasures and presents that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you every single day, not only do you fall in love with a Borei Bach, thank you HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if I could see I'd give you a kiss. Not only that, but on top of it, you start looking at yourself, how dare I complain to him because I feel pain? How dare I feel anything against Hashem because something is not working according to my plan? How dare I do anything that's against him? He gave me so much. What am I, the most ungrateful piece of in the world? No way! It's not possible. I'm not going to be that guy. I love Hashem. You see, Rabotai Karim, you don't need HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give you a lotto in order to love Hashem. You just need to be able to appreciate the free gifts He gave you. But, unfortunately, we don't see it always that way. Why? We're too busy looking at his life. We're too busy looking at Amalek's life, looking at him on his boat, looking at him on his Ferrari, looking at him celebrating life and pretending to be happy a month or two before he commits suicide. We look at that instead of looking at ourselves, instead of looking at our Torah. That's the problem, Rabotai. You see, all of this has always been around. All of the sins, all of the possibilities, all of the ungratefulness has always been around. But the thing that constantly brought us back to gratefulness to Hashem was always the Torah. But what happened over 200 years ago changed everything. Why? Because we had our own people say, you know what? Maybe you don't need the Torah. You know what? Maybe you don't even need the land. You know what? Maybe you don't even need God. You could rely on professors. You could admire Einstein. You could admire all types of people that are sophisticated and Jewish, but they're not religious. You see, Rabotai Karim, when we think that Judaism is a culture or a tradition and not a connection to the shepherd, not a connection to the creator, not a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the one who loves us more than anyone else can even imagine, when we don't understand that, we're simply self-destructing. But we don't even realize we're doing that. Why? Because we're doing it in such a way that it doesn't even look like it's self-destructive. We're saying, look, I like Jewish people, I like Einstein, I like Jewish people. I like Seinfeld. I like Jewish people. I like such and such person that's a successful Jewish person. I connect to Jewish people. I even go to 3rd Avenue Deli and eat the food over there. Sometimes kosher, sometimes not kosher, but I like to eat hot dogs and I like to eat this. I like to eat that. I like the culture. Yeah, but what about Shabbat? No, Shabbat's not for me. What about Torah? No, I don't have time for Torah. Yeah, but that's what makes you Jewish. Maybe that's what makes you Jewish, they say. But for me, I'm Jewish enough. You see, Rabotai, when we remove the Torah, we're simply self-destructing, but we don't even realize it. Now, something fantastic that I saw in Pachad Yitzchak. Rav Hutner was one of the Gdolei Ador, Rav Yitzchak Hutner, one of the Gdolei Ador in the previous generation. He was in America. And he was an Ish Gadol, so Adam Gadol, something special. In a sefer called Pachad Yitzchak, he says one of the things that we learn in Chanukah is that you light the candles, but Torah specifically tells you, the Rabbanim specifically tell you, you light the candles, but you're not allowed to use them for anything else. Now surely looking at the candles is not using them. But how can we understand this mitzvah? He says the following. Let's compare it to a different halacha. Let's compare it to if you see a chacham. If you see a talmid chacham, you see a great rabbi, Rabbi Ovadia shows up, someone that's a known gadol, someone that's a known talmid chacham walks into you, and you see him, you have to make a blessing. What's the blessing? Blessed is he who has shared his knowledge with those who fear him. That's the blessing. That's the blessing. You see a talmid chacham, you have to make a blessing. Blessed is Hashem. Why? He gave us people that he shared his knowledge with them. He shared knowledge with them. Why did he share his knowledge? Because they fear him. You have to make a blessing. Now what about if you see a scholar among the nations, a little Esav, a little Ishmael that just, I don't know, build a rocket ship that can go back and forth to space? Also have to make a blessing. Yes, you have to make a blessing. What's the blessing? Blessed is he who has given his wisdom to flesh and blood. This is all from Gemara Masechet Brachot, page 58a. So you see there's a little bit of a difference. At one end it says, for Talmid Chacham, for Jewish Talmid Chacham, you have to make a blessing that Hashem shared his knowledge with flesh and blood. With those that fear him. But if you see a non-Jew that is smart, I don't know, like the guy from Tesla, the guy from Amazon, all of these smart people, you want to make a blessing, you see them, make a blessing. What's the blessing? Blessing is, blessed is he who is given, not shared, given the wisdom to flesh and blood. Okay. Now here we see, it's very nice. Torah appreciates everybody, the Jews, the non-Jews, but that's not the lesson here, Rav Hutner says. Rav Hutner says here, that's not the lesson. Why? The Gemara is teaching us something even more significant. First and foremost, the Gemara is saying that you only make a blessing if someone is a Torah scholar, if he's Jewish. Not if he's not Jewish, if that even exists. Not if he's not Jewish. Why? The Gemara Masechet Megillah says if the someone that's if the Goyim say they have wisdom of regular things, you can believe them. They say they have wisdom of Torah, don't believe them. Why? Not possible. Yeah, but he read a lot of books, and he read the Tanakh, and he knows it by heart. Good for him. He still is not considered a Talmid Chacham. Why? That's a gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives to those who fear him. It's a gift. It's not something that's learned. It's a gift. So here the Gemara says, if a non-Jew comes to you and says, I'm a Talmid Chacham, I know the entire Tanakh by heart, I even read the Shas, even though I'm not allowed to, no blessing whatsoever. Okay. Fine. So I'm not going to get a blessing. Esav says. But what about if there's a Einstein, a Jewish wise person, but in the sciences, a philosopher, someone that has written many books, a Shakespeare, if you will. What if he comes along? Do I make a blessing because he's so wise in his secular subjects? Gemara says, no. Rav Hutner says that's the biggest lesson out of the whole thing. That's the biggest lesson out of the whole thing. If a Jew is smart in anything else other than Torah, no blessing. He could be Einstein and Einstein's father. No blessing. Why? Why? Now he goes into length explaining who, what, when, and where, but for the sake of time, I'm going to give you simply the answer. See, Rabotai, for us Jewish people, we don't just bless things because they exist. We bless them if they're fulfilling their purpose. For example, if you have something that smells good, if that's the purpose, if it's, let's say, an incense of some kind they use for Havdalah, then you make a blessing. But if you're simply walking around, you smell something, and that's not necessarily its purpose to smell good. It has a higher purpose. You don't make any blessing whatsoever. So Rav Hutner explains. He says, you see, although the Jew acquired wisdom in mathematics, in science, in philosophy, in whatever it is, he may be even leading a major company like Google and so on. No blessing whatsoever. Why? He may have a benefit, like this thing has a good smell, but that's not its purpose. That's not the Jew's purpose to acquire the wisdom of the sciences. That's a byproduct. That's just something that happens as a result, but it's not the main purpose. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, when we are glued to the Torah, when we're glued to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we understand that there are certain things that we'll get and we'll inherit and we'll have and we'll benefit from, but that's not the purpose. The purpose for us in this world is to serve Hashem. Rav Wasserman says to us here that there came a time that we lost this connection. Why? We followed bad shepherds. We followed false shepherds, false prophets, which caused us to get to a point where we started feeling alone. We forgot the way. And he finishes this particular section. He says, Lelo nechama v'lelo tikva, no comfort, no hope. Ve'enem roim kol derech ela shel ibud atzmi. And they don't even see any other way other than losing themselves. They literally become lost completely. Self-hating Jews, people that are religious without a purpose. They don't even know why they do it. They just put it on their head just because. They just say it because, just because, and so on and so on. He's not just talking about secular people here. He's talking about all of us that are living a life purposelessly. No point to why we pray, no point to why we read, no point to our holidays, no point to everything. We just simply become empty. Why did that happen? Because you followed a bad leader. Sometimes that bad leader is a politician. Sometimes that bad leader is a rabbi. Sometimes that bad leader is Satan himself. Either way, it's a bad leader. It's not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now, to save ourselves the pain of secularism, of heresy, of the anguish of being in a situation where we feel alone, we don't feel like Hashem is in our life. A person has only one option. Become Charedi. What does it mean, Charedi? You have to start putting a shtreimel on, you have to long beard. No. Charedi means chared. You have to glue yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chase Hashem and His mitzvot. Chase Avodah Hashem. Chase the servitude of Hashem. Constantly look for more Torah. Constantly look for more mitzvot. Constantly look for more purpose in life through the eyes of the Torah, not through the eyes of people. Why? Because when you do that, you're going to put yourself in a situation where the world around you will change in accordance to the blessings that Hashem gives you, rather than you having to change in accordance to the blessing that you're chasing. One of the Chachamim that we had about 450 years ago was Tosfot Yom-Tov. Rav Yom-Tov Tilman Hillel. Rav Yom-Tov Tilman Hillel was also known as Tosfot Yom-Tov. He was not only very, very short, but he was a hunchback in both sides. In so many words, wasn't exactly a very good-looking man. But yet, who did he marry? Who did he marry? The richest man in the city had only one daughter. Only one daughter. Surely he loved her. Who did he do with her? He gave it to Tosfot Yom-Tov. Today, somebody is not the same color as you, not the same tradition as you, not the same upbringing as you, not the same Rebbe as you, not the same eyes as you, ears as you already. No. Shake it. It's not for us. Not for us. What do you mean? He's a Jew. She's a Jew. No. That's not for us. No, they're BT. Who? What? Acronym? Oh, no, they're Baal Tshuva. No. People have no idea what they're looking for. Why? They're judging the book, not even by the cover, by the review. By the review of the review of the review of a different book that sounds similar. That's what they do today. Tosfot Yom-Tov married a beautiful woman that was the daughter of the richest man in the land. Why? He says, look, what is she marrying his body? This is a living Sefer Torah. That's all she's going to need in her life. He's a living, walking Sefer Torah. What else can you possibly want? What else do you need? What else leaves this world? What do you think? The hunchback goes to heaven? That's just a body. It's a piece of meat. It's a shish kebab. That's it. It goes in the garbage. That neshama is Sefer Torah. That's all you care about. When we're glued to the Torah, it becomes an easy decision. When we're not glued to the Torah, when we're glued to the Yetzirah instead, we're glued to the evil inclination, we're glued to materialism, we're glued to superficial stuff, we're glued to politics, we're glued to the news, we're glued to the stock market, we're glued to all these other things, it's impossible for you to ever make such a decision. Better yet, it becomes impossible for you to even marry somebody for the right reason. It becomes impossible for you to do business with somebody for the right reason. It becomes impossible for you to have a relationship of any kind for the right reason. Why? You don't know anything. You just know things you feel you need. There's no purpose. Hence the reason of why the suicide rate of people that are secular, of people that are not Jewish, is worlds apart from people that are Jewish and religious. Worlds apart. There is no comparison. You can multiply the factor by 1,000 and still not arrive at it. Why? When you're connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have all the reasons in the world to live. When you're not connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your whole life is purposeless. You're just looking for it to end. And since you don't want pain, you figure, okay, let me just try to have as much fun while I'm here. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, we have a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu of the Torah. But you're not going to be able to connect to the Torah without making sacrifices. Now, as I said before, for the guys around and the girls, to make a sacrifice, we have to find ways to appreciate HaShem in every step. One of the unique things that a woman can do in order to love HaShem is by listening to the instructions of the sages and understand that these instructions are not only warning, they're also instructions of how to connect to HaShem on a deeper level. The Rebbe Misatmer, Rav Yoel Teitelbaum, Alav Shalom, was an Ish Kodesh, to say the least. And the Baba Sali said he was one of the 36. He was one of the 36 during the time of his life. The Gemara says that the world exists because of 36 tzaddikim. During his life, he was one of them, Baba Sali says. And he writes the following. It's hard for me to write at length about the terrible stumbling block of wearing short garments. Garments of Sodom, unfortunately. Even among the observant Jews, this stumbling block is common. Therefore, before we begin to take serious steps that I do not wish to take, I have come to warn with severe warning that whoever calls himself a Jew must not wear such clothing. And whoever does wear these short garments, meaning short sleeves, short skirts, short pants, anything that shows your arms and legs, anyone who does wear these short garments is separated and ostracized from authentic religious Judaism, who conduct themselves in the ways of Torah of Hashem. And may Hashem Yitbarach protect us and send us blessing and success in all things. One of the previous Gdolei Ador writes a heartfelt letter to all of Am Yisrael. He says, I'm not just talking about the secular women that are dressing like Michelle Obama, Imach Shima, We're not talking about just the secular people. No, no, no. We're talking about even the religious among us. People that call themselves religious, all of a sudden have become, even in this day, we're talking about 80 years ago, 100 years ago, talking about a long time ago. Even in this day, says, look at this. Look at this. People have become modern. The girls are walking around with short sleeves. The girls are walking around with short skirts. He says, you should know. So long as you walk around with short sleeves and short skirts, you are not connected to Am Yisrael. No, but I feel Jewish. You can feel all you want. You can feel all you want. Am Yisrael is connected to HaShem. How? By following His Torah. Following His Torah. Many ladies may be very nice, may be very generous, may be very, very, very whatever you want to vary. If you are not walking around modest, you're not connected to Am Yisrael that loves Hashem. You're not connected to Am Yisrael that loves Hashem. Why? Because Am Yisrael that's connected to Hashem doesn't go against Hashem. Doesn't go against Hashem. But what if a modern Orthodox, she asks? To answer that question, we have to go to someone with broad shoulders, enough broadness that it could literally speak for the generation. None other than, again, Rav Victor Miller. Rav Victor Miller, in a tape 136, says the following. Some people, many people, find all their happiness in the company of other people. Like some Reform rabbis and conservative rabbis, and I'm afraid modern Orthodox rabbis too, they tell their congregation when they come together, they say it's togetherness that counts. That's the word they like, achdut. Achdut is togetherness. So they're sitting together, the ladies and the men, which obviously is not allowed. They're munching together, the eating, which is obviously not allowed, it's not appropriate. You want to eat with your wife, that's fine, but for men and women to eat together in the synagogue and things of that nature, not appropriate. But the togetherness of modern Orthodox and Reform and Conservative, which in essence he puts them all in the same pie, he says, no, mitzvah, that's togetherness, that's loving each other. There's a church supper, a synagogue supper. They're enjoying themselves. Let's say in community, a rural community, and they're all together and the rabbi speaks to them. It's togetherness that counts. But they're forgetting that you have to be together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what counts. And the fact that they're leaning one on each other, ish lere'ehu ya'azu, so it means ube'eru shneim yachdav, a time will come that they will all burn together. They'll be together in Gehenom too, and it won't help. It's not going to help. Ve'en mechabeh, there's no friend that will be able to help and put out the fire. Because when the time comes, a man goes before the judgment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu all alone. There is no togetherness. You see, Rabotai, when a person wants to be a part of Am Yisrael, he has to remember, rule number one, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is number one. Rule number two, don't forget rule number one. This is the rule. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us rules, and He also instilled power into the sages to give us an interpretation of different rules, and even at times add rules, in order to protect us from ourselves. But instead of following what HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His sages say, sometimes we follow our feelings, because our feelings tell us we should be together because the local Chabad or the local church or the local Reform or the local modern Orthodox or whatever it is, they're telling us that togetherness is what counts, and togetherness, even though half the people don't even keep Shabbat, the other half don't even know how to keep Shabbat, and whoever else is coming doesn't know what it is, bichlal. You see, Rabotai, that's not togetherness. Togetherness only is valuable if it's togetherness with Hashem. Because when we're together with Hashem, we have results. Here are some of the results. You see, there was a researcher by the name of Anthony Gordon, along with Richard Horowitz, called Will Your Grandchild Be Jewish? In their research, they did a 4-generation research of the effects of intermarriage, as well as the effects of your practice, of how you practice your Judaism. What did they analyze? They analyzed 4 generations of secular Jews, 4 generations of people that were Reform, 4 generations of conservative, 4 generations of centrist Orthodox, which is similar to like modern Orthodox or a little bit more perhaps. And last but not least, 4 generations of Orthodox like Hasidish or Charedi, people that are all the way 100%, no exceptions. Yeshiva Orthodox, they call it also. What do we have after 4 generations? They started with 100 Jews in each basket, 5 different baskets, 100 secular, 100 Reform, 100 conservative, 100 centrist Orthodox, and 100 Charedim. What kind of results will we have 4 generations? Now, of course, any civilization that has an interest in continuing to exist must understand that after 4 generations, the number 100 must be, you have to have more than 100. It has to grow. Why? If you're not growing after 4 generations, there's a very serious problem. You're on your way to dinosaur land. You're on the way to extinction. So, but even that, it's not just any growth. You have to grow at a certain ratio. For example, they did some research some years ago, and they discovered that if an average family, an average country that does not have an average family have at least 2.6 children per family, that civilization, that country is on its way to extinction. On its way to extinction. If all you have is 1 kid and a dog, or 2 dogs and a kid, or 2 kids and a dog, something like that, that country is on its way out. Why? You have to have 2.6 kids per family. Now, what happens if your heart tells you, listen, I'm secular. Maybe I'm going to have kids, maybe not. Maybe I'm going to stay single. Maybe I'm not. Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe I'll have kids with a bunch of girls. Maybe I'll have kids with a bunch of guys. Well, I just do whatever I want. Secular. I'm a free bird. I'm a drol. I do whatever I want. Okay. Let's see what happens after 4 generations. What if somebody says, you know what? God, he's pretty cool. I like him. But I don't believe that he wrote the Torah. And I don't believe that there's an oral Torah. And I don't really believe that the written Torah is from God either. I just believe that there is a creator sometimes. That's called Reform. Conservative says, no, we're not just as bad as the Reform. We are, we believe that God created the world, but we don't necessarily agree with the written Torah 100%, nor the oral Torah at all. So much so, head rabbi in Jerusalem and conservative, openly homosexual. Okay, that's 3rd basket. Centrist Orthodox, you could say modern Orthodox, give or take. Sometimes religious, good. Sometimes the rabbi and his wife are walking around with a skirt. You never really know what you're going to get. Sometimes half the kila are tzaddikim. Sometimes the other half is driving on Shabbat to Knesset. You're not really sure. Okay, what are we going to have? Lastly, you have the Charedim. Some of them, Talmidei Chachamim, Tzadikim, Gdolim, Kedoshim, some of them are struggling to make ends meet. But nonetheless, they're all observing the Torah full force. Surely you have mistakes, surely you have issues, surely you have a few that go astray, but nonetheless, the community as a whole going full force with Hashem. Yeah, but there's a Holocaust, full force with Hashem. Yeah, but there's tough times, full force with Hashem. Yeah, but there's Corona, full force with Hashem. Good, bad, no problem. Full force. What do you have, according to science, scientific research? What do you have after 4 generations? The ones that followed Hashem 100%, the Charedim, 100 people grew to 3,398. Extraordinary growth, intermarriage of 0%, and the average number of children per woman, 6.45. Centrist Orthodox, 100 grew to 337. 10% of what the Charedim have. Every normal civilization only wants to grow. So when your fellow Jew grew 10 times more than you after 4 generations, it's not exactly ideal. You see, what's going on? We want to grow just as much. 10 times more, that's a huge difference. Why? Intermarriage, although was relatively low at only 2% at the time, but because of their modernizing mentality, they had less kids. How many kids? 2.96 kids. Still growing, still good, but half the kids. That half the kids after 4 generations makes 10 times the difference. What about a conservative? 100 people after 4 generations, left with 52. Tragic. 50% decline, or 48% decline to be exact. After 4 generations, instead of growing to be several thousand, or at the very least several hundred, they dropped by nearly a half. Why? Intermarriage, 24%, which again is not even that high. Alvai, all of Am Yisrael will have only 24%. Right now we have over 80% intermarriage across Judaism. In America, there's some places over 90%. Even in Eretz Yisrael, there's a 12% intermarriage. In Europe, there's over 70%. 24% is not even that bad. Yet 24% intermarriage. And a modern type of mentality that allows them only to feel okay with 1.82 kids after 4 generations. As I said, once it's less than 2.6, the civilization starts going bye-bye. Intermarriage. Alongside modernizing, 52 people left. Which means they are 1 generation away from being 0. Reform. People are asking, how come there's less people going to reform? It's not because it's not interesting. It's not because people want to become more religious. It's simply they are going in the way of the dinosaurs. 100 people want to believe that homosexuality is a mitzvah. Want to believe that you could be a Jew and a Goy at the same time. Want to believe whatever they want to believe. After 4 generations, 100 reform, left with 13. 13. An 87% decline. Why? Mentality that buildings are more important than children, money is more important than God, means that they only can have 1.73 kids. And more interestingly, since you can marry Goyim among the Reform, 79% intermarriage, which means that the 21% that actually married Jews was not even intentional. It would just simply happen that he happened and happened and happened. Hashem had mercy to leave some of them. But still, they are literally less than a generation away from being extinct, like the people of the Mabul. So you would say, okay, conservative, I can understand why they're going down. Reform, I can understand why they're going down. But what about secular? I mean, there's a bunch of secular people. They still go to shul, once or twice a year like I used to. Still keep here and there. Sometimes maybe, sometimes yet. Keep kosher in the house, but not so much outside. What's left of them? Surprisingly, Rabotai, the worst numbers are with the secular. 100 people. After 4 generations, all that was left was 4 people. 4 people. That's it. A 96% decline, virtually complete annihilation. With 85% intermarriage, worse than reform, and only 1.45 kids. Why? They're too busy making money, too busy building buildings, too busy selling t-shirts, too busy selling diamonds. not busy serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroys everything that does not serve a purpose. You see, Rabotai, it's no longer, are you reform, are you conservative, are you secular, are you religious? No. It's no longer that. The question is, are you interested in surviving? Are you interested in having grandkids that can say you are their grandparent? That's the question. If you are, the only way, legitimately, is to become part of the Chassidim, to become part of the Charedim, to become part of the people that are glued to Hashem. Why? That's the only way you have an assurance in this world and the next. Everything else is questionable, because even the ones that were religious, Orthodox, the intermarriage rate is no longer 2%. The intermarriage rate, unfortunately, is much higher. Right now, we're in a situation where intermarriage is so high that we don't necessarily need the Mashiach to distinguish between the wicked and the righteous. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is simply eliminating them. They're eliminating themselves with their own hands. Now surely, along the way, they're going to cause a lot of problems, a lot of headaches, and that's obviously part of the message of the last generation. But the biggest thing that we have to understand is that we've had some difficult times in the past. We've had difficult times in recent history. As HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Am Yisrael in Parashat Miketz, this week's parasha, that when the salvation came to Yosef, Vayiritzu min habor, that when the salvation arrived for Yosef to come out of the prison, they hurried him out of the hole. They hurried him out of the jail. Why? He was not going to suffer one extra minute. That 12 years he was there, that was the test. That's it. It ends at that moment. And we'll finish off with this. There is a Tehillim where David HaMelech says in Psalm 1, verse number 6, Ki yodea Hashem derech tzadikim v'derech reshaim toved. Hashem knows the way of the tzadikim, and the way of the wicked will be lost, will be destroyed. So Chachamim debate. Okay, surely Hashem knows the way of the tzaddikim. He's the one that, in essence, gave it to them. And the Reshaim, their way is going to be destroyed. But what's the purpose of this verse? So one of the tzaddikim that lived through the Holocaust and survived to tell the story, and not only tell the story, but speak about his own survival, as well as many other Jews' survival, and write Sfarim, Sifrei Kodesh, inside the Holocaust. Rav Tzvi Hirsch Meisels, Alav Shalom. In his responsa, Mekadshei Hashem, he writes the following, as commentary to this verse in Tehillim 1:6, Ki yodea Hashem derech tzadikim v'derech reshaim toved, he says the following, I saw in the Holocaust that all Jews that were glued with emunah survived and thrived as a result of it. They were glued to him with emunah to Hashem before the Holocaust. They were glued with emunah and bitachon to Hashem during the Holocaust, during the tragedies, during the death, during the murders, during the horrible, worst possible thing you can imagine. During Gehenom, in this world, they had bitachon in Hashem. They not only survived, the Rav Meisel says, but they thrived. They became even holier. They got to higher levels. They got closer to Hashem as a result. A lot of people think that a lot of people became not religious because of the Holocaust. Opposite. The ones that were already glued to Hashem got even more religious, got even closer to Hashem. One person comes to Rav Meisels and he says, no, I'm not religious anymore. Why not religious? I'm not religious. Look what happened. It's a murders, the rape, this, what the Nazis did. Wait, so hold on a second. So your rabbi is Hitler then, huh? He goes, no, why you say my rabbi is Hitler? Because you say all you're mentioning is the murder and the rape and the this and all the horrible things in the world, and therefore you don't want to serve God. So the only person who does such things is Hitler, and he also doesn't follow God. So that's your rabbi then, huh? That's what you're going to follow? Rabotai, anyone that had emunah and bitachon in Hashem, that was chared, that was charedi with Hashem, Rabbi Yisrael says, they not only survived, they thrived. They thrived. But those who without emunah and bitachon were eliminated. He says, I don't know who had bitachon and what happened here and there. But surely HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yodea Hashem, who the tzaddikim were. That's what the verse means. It's not just that the Reshaim will disappear. It says Hashem knows who the real tzaddikim are, what their way is, not just the way they walk to shul, and just the way they look, and how long their peyot is, and how big their kisui rosh is, and how much they don't know. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what's in their heart. He knows the tzaddikim. He knows who has real emunah in him. He knows, and those are the ones that he blesses. Those are the ones that he protects. Those are the ones that thrived despite the difficulty. That's what David HaMelech is saying to us that saw the Holocaust, Rav Meisel says. That's what Hashem is saying to us. Yodea Hashem, who the tzaddikim are. Hashem knows who the tzaddikim are. He knows their way. Not just what you and I see. He sees what's inside their heart. You see, Rabotai Karim, it's going to come a time where each and every single one of us will have different obstacles, different tests. Those tests that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us are gifts from Shemayim to test us and prepare us for even bigger tests, for even bigger missions. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to throw us in the water and make us into tzaddikim despite our will, despite our desire. Why? He wants us to survive. He wants us to thrive. So sometimes he'll have to give us tests in order to exercise our emunah, exercise our bitachon. If we're glued to Hashem and His Torah, we'll survive and we'll thrive. If we don't, chas v'shalom, we already saw what the numbers look like. Those people that were halfway religious sometimes during the holidays, maybe yes, maybe no, were even in worse situation than people that were partially religious. The secular people, the lefty, the liberal, the reform, the conservative, all of those people literally are on their way to extinction. Whereas the people that were charedim, the people that were glued to Hashem, are the only reason why there are Jews in the world today. Please, do yourself a favor. Get closer to Hashem and start with something simple. Thank Him for all the things that are not happening to you. And forget about all the things that you want. Why? By the time you finish thanking Him for all the things that are not happening to you that could be bad, trust me when I tell you, you're not going to want anything else anyway. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.